My fiancé expressed that my disabled brother was an embarrassment and insisted that he be excluded from our wedding. In response, I simply said, "Thank you for being honest." I then removed the engagement ring from her finger and called off the wedding. This abrupt turn of events left her in a state of frantic apology, realizing that her harshness had cost her everything. I am a 32-year-old man, previously engaged to Ashley, who is 30. We had been together for 4 years, living together for 2 of those. Our wedding was scheduled to take place in just 3 months. A grand affair planned for 150 guests at a rustic barn venue. Exactly the kind of celebration her mother Sandra had always dreamed of. I believed I was content, but it wasn't until the truth surfaced that I recognized the decay beneath the surface. My brother, Anthony, 29, is the finest person I know. When we were young, a drunk driver struck his bicycle, causing him to fall into a coma for several weeks. Although he recovered, he was left with lasting effects, a pronounced limp and a slight speech impediment. However, these challenges do not define him. He is an exceptionally talented graphic designer, possesses a sharp sense of humor, and has an unwavering strength of character. Following the loss of our parents a few years ago, he became my only family and was naturally going to be my best man. Last Tuesday night, while Ashley and I were finalizing the seating arrangements, her mother was present, which should have raised my suspicions. Sandra has a knack for turning everything into a matter of her social standing. She began her perfectly manicured nail tapping Anthony's name on the list, indicating that we needed to discuss the optics of the wedding party. I was taken aback. The term optics was concerning. Ashley interjected, her tone unnaturally cheerful, stating that her mother suggested it might be best if Anthony participated in a different capacity, rather than as the best man. I put my pen down, and the atmosphere in the room became tense. What different capacity? I asked. My curiosity piqued. Ashley continued, avoiding my gaze. The ceremony is the focal point. All eyes will be on us during the procession and at the altar. It involves a lot of physical activity. The implications of her words loomed heavily. I pressed her to clarify. What do you mean, Ashley? Finally looking at me, her expression shifted to one of frustration, as though I were being unreasonable. Mark, let's be realistic. It's going to be awkward. People will feel uncomfortable. It's limp. The way he speaks, it's an embarrassment. It's not the atmosphere we want. The word embarrassment lingered in the air, and I didn't feel anger at that moment. Instead, a chilling clarity washed over me, akin to a camera lens coming into sharp focus. I saw her for who she truly was, and I recognized the approval in her mother's eyes, reflected on our 4 years together, sharing an apartment and envisioning a future, and realized it had all been built on false pretenses. I was enamored with an illusion. The woman standing before me was a stranger. I spoke quietly, colder than I had ever imagined myself capable of. Thank you for the truth. Rising to my feet, I approached her, and she flinched, perhaps expecting a confrontation. Instead, I gently took her left hand and, with a confused look in her eyes, slid the engagement ring off her finger. It was my grandmother's ring. "What are you doing?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I placed the ring on the coffee table and stated firmly, "The wedding is canceled." I then turned and retreated to our bedroom, closing the door. Behind me, I heard Sandra's shocked exclamation, and then Ashley began pounding on the door. Pleading, "Mark, don't be so dramatic. Open the door. We can discuss this." I remained silent, sitting on the edge of the bed as I made 2 crucial phone calls. The first was to the venue, forfeiting the $5,000 deposit. The second was to the caterer, losing another $2,500. Following that, I sent a group text to my groomsmen and a brief, carefully crafted email to our wedding mailing list with the subject, "Wedding Canceled." It read, "Due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding of Mark and Ashley will not be taking place. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause." After an hour, when I finally opened the bedroom door, I found Ashley sobbing on the couch, while Sandra had left. The seating chart lay in tatters on the floor. I began to piece it back together as she wept, looking up at me with a face streaked with tears and smudged makeup. He can still be the best man. I'll tell him I'm sorry I didn't mean it. But deep down, I knew she was only remorseful for being caught, not for her cruelty. She would simply attempt to conceal it better in the future. You need to pack your things, Ashley. Her response was defiant. No, this is my home. I'm the only one on the lease, I stated, allowing the weight of that fact to settle in the air. You have 30 days to move out? She looked at me, her grief morphing into a simmering rage. You're throwing away our entire life just because I was honest about him. I met her gaze, knowing that words were unnecessary at this point. I understood that this was only the beginning. Individuals like Ashley and her mother Sandra don't simply walk away. They aim to incinerate everything in their path. Ever. I am not the type to react dramatically. I prefer to strategize, and I was already formulating my plan. So, am I the villain in this situation? First, I want to express my gratitude for the overwhelming support I've received. It's comforting to know that I'm not losing my mind. Many of you warned me that things would escalate, and I can confirm you were right. Ashley's response has shifted from desperate apologies to a scorched earth approach. True to form, she has disregarded my 30-day notice. Instead of moving out, she remains in the apartment, alternating between giving me the silent treatment and having lengthy, loud phone calls with her mother, where she paints me as the villain. Small, petty acts of sabotage began to surface. My premium Spotify account was suddenly filled with her sad breakup playlist blaring from my car. She left her muddy Adidas sneakers on the new rug I had just purchased. Then, my favorite coffee mug, a gift from Anthony, was discovered shattered in the trash. I chose not to confront her. Instead, I documented the incident with a photo and added its replacement cost to a private document titled Damages and Debts that I had started on my computer. Then the financial demands began. I received a call from Sandra, who wasted no time with pleasantries. Mark, she began, I've been reviewing the wedding expenses. My husband and I are out nearly $12,000 on non-refundable deposits for the flowers, the band, and Ashley's dress. We expect reimbursement. I was prepared for this. During my initial cancellation process, I had diligently kept records. Sandra, I replied, maintaining a calm tone. The wedding was canceled because you and Ashley imposed a condition that my brother be excluded. I did not agree to that condition. The failure to proceed lies with you, not me. Therefore, I will not reimburse you for anything. She sputtered in disbelief. That's absurd. You canceled it. Then you should take that up with the florist, I said before hanging up. The following day, I received a formal email from Ashley, likely drafted with help from her mother. It consisted of a list of demands: reimbursement for the $12,000 in wedding expenses, a buyout of her half of the $2,850 security deposit, and a request for me to continue covering the insurance on her car for the next 6 months while she got back on her feet. Here's the thing. I work as a project manager, and precise documentation is my lifeblood. I replied to her email, CCing Sandra and her father, Donald, who had remained silent until now. The subject line read, Financial Arrangements. Ashley, I began, thank you for outlining your position. To clarify, as I explained to Sandra, I will not be covering any wedding-related expenses. The decision to end our engagement was a direct result of the unacceptable conditions you placed regarding my brother's inclusion. Regarding the security deposit, as you are not on the lease and have never contributed to the rent, our agreement was that I would cover rent and utilities while you would handle groceries. You have no legal claim to the deposit, ever. I have attached a spreadsheet detailing your share of the utilities from the past 24 months, which you have not contributed towards. This includes costs for our shared high-speed internet, premium cable package, and building service fees, totaling $3,150. Your portion of the deposit can be applied to this outstanding balance, leaving you with a remainder due of $300. As for the car, it is registered solely in my name. I purchased it for you as a gift, but the ownership was never transferred. The insurance policy, also in my name, will be terminated in 14 days. On July 5th, you will need to secure your own policy if you wish to continue driving the vehicle legally. We should also schedule a time to sign the title over to you. Lastly, this serves as a formal reminder that your 30-day notice to vacate the premises expires on July 20th at 5 p.m. if you have not moved out by then. I will have no choice but to initiate formal eviction proceedings with the landlord. Best regards, Mark. The silence that followed was deafening for about 6 hours. Then my phone erupted with messages from her. A master class in deflection. You're bringing up utilities from 2 years ago. How petty can you be? You're trying to make me homeless. And take my car away. You're evil. My father can't believe how you're acting. He's going to call you. Of course, Donald never called. The best part, I revisited our old text messages. A year ago, Ashley had texted me, "Can you cover utilities this month? We'll pay you back next week. Promise." I had a screenshot, actually. I had a dozen of them. This isn't about revenge. Not really. It's about consequences. She constructed a world where her actions bore no repercussions. And I'm simply dismantling the support beams. The spreadsheet I created was a masterpiece. I even included charts. The battle is far from over. She still resides in my apartment, but now she understands that I have a ledger, and I'm not afraid to utilize it. The past 2 weeks have devolved into a cold war over shared living space and social media. Ashley finally recognized that I wasn't bluffing. Her approach shifted. Knowing she couldn't win with logic, she opted to win public opinion. Her friends began posting vague but pointed comments online. Instagram stories with captions like, "So disgusted by how some men treat the women who love them. A good heart is worth more than a fancy apartment." It was childish, yet it stung. Several of our mutual friends reached out, seeking my side of the story. I chose not to engage in the drama, simply stating the truth without emotion. Ashley claimed that my brother was an embarrassment and insisted he couldn't attend our wedding due to his disability. That was the catalyst for my decision to end our engagement. The power of truth is undeniable. It requires no embellishment. The situation escalated quickly. One of Ashley's bridesmaids, Betty, whom I had always liked, reached out to me with a text. "What? Oh my God, Mark, I'm so sorry." Meanwhile, my living situation with Ashley continued to deteriorate. She was intentionally being a difficult roommate. And with the move-out date of July 20th looming, I took action. On that day, I meticulously packed every last one of her belongings into boxes, labeled with obsessive detail. I moved them into a 10 by 10 storage unit I rented just a mile away, paying for the first month up front. As the deadline of 5 p.m. passed, she was nowhere to be found. I called a locksmith to change the locks at 5:30 p.m. by 7 p.m. She arrived, unable to get into the apartment. When she began banging on the door, I opened it. "Ashley, the deadline to vacate has passed," I stated firmly. "You can't do this." "My stuff is in there," she protested. "Your belongings are safe," I replied calmly, handing her a key and a piece of paper. "This is the key to storage unit 247 at Main Street Storage, and the first month is paid for. After that, it's your responsibility." I also handed her an envelope containing a cashier's check for $4,425. She looked at it, bewildered. "What's this?" she snarled. "I thought I owed you money. It's your half of the security deposit," I explained, my tone flat. "I've decided to waive the utility debt. Consider this a final settlement of all household and financial matters. Between USA Clean Break You think you can just pay me off? She sneered. This isn't a payoff. It's a calculated decision, I replied, allowing a hint of coldness to seep into my voice. I want this over. More importantly, cashing that check will serve as your legal acknowledgement that all shared financial obligations are concluded. If you intend to sue me later, cashing this check would complicate that significantly. The choice is yours. I noticed a flicker of conflict in her eyes, greed battling against anger. She snatched the envelope. This doesn't mean anything, she seethed. I'm still going to sue you for everything. That's your prerogative, I said. But as of 5:01 p.m. today, you are no longer a resident. If you step foot in this apartment again, you will be trespassing. With that, I closed. The banging continued for a while, then eventually ceased. I felt a pang of something not regret, but a deep sadness for the man who had stood in that same hallway a month prior, believing he was in love. I poured myself a drink in my father's crystal glass, and for the first time in weeks, my home was quiet. Final update: it's been some time since then, and life has settled into a new routine. I wanted to update those who followed this saga. The tranquility I felt after changing the locks marked the beginning of the end. Unsurprisingly, Ashley did not take this lightly. She hired a lawyer. Her parents footed the bill who sent me a bombastic letter of intent to sue, citing grievances such as emotional distress, breach of promise to marry, and demanding the full $12,000 for wedding expenses. My response was straightforward. I consulted with a lawyer for a few hours, and we drafted a concise reply. It included a copy of the original lease agreement, which listed only my name. The spreadsheet of her unpaid utilities marked as waived as part of the final settlement, and a copy of the cashier's check for $4,425. The piece de resistance was a sworn affidavit from Betty, detailing Ashley's comments about my brother. Betty volunteered to help, stating that people like Ashley deserve to be seen for who they truly are. We sent the package to Ashley's lawyer, which prompted a second, much weaker letter attempting to argue about shared assets. My lawyer pointed out that her cashing of the settlement check demonstrated clear accord and satisfaction, effectively nullifying any claims. After that, we heard nothing more from her lawyer. The car situation became the final nail in the coffin. Following my 14-day notice, the insurance was terminated. Ashley must have ignored this because a week later, I received a notice that her car had been impounded after a minor fender bender, her fault, of course. Since the title was still in my name, the notice came to me, stating that if the fees weren't paid within 30 days, the vehicle would be sold at public auction to satisfy the towing company's lien. I sent one last text to Ashley. The car has been impounded. I am not retrieving it. If you want it, you have until the 30th to pay the fees and register it in your name. Otherwise, the towing company will sell it at auction. I will sign the release of interest paperwork to allow the sale to proceed. Her response was a string of profanities, to which I did not reply. I knew she couldn't afford the fees. A month later, I received the form, signed it, washed my hands of the entire situation. The fallout for Ashley and her mother was significant. Ashley had to move back in with her parents, now without a car. Her inability to commute to her job in the city resulted in her quitting. Socially, the story spread, and the truth narrated by me and corroborated by Betty painted a clear picture of Ashley's cruelty. Sandra's social circle got a front row seat to her daughter's dramatic implosion, which I can only imagine was the ultimate punishment for her. I saw Ashley once about a month ago while at a coffee shop with Anthony. She walked in, spotted us, froze, and her face contorted with anger and bitterness. Quickly looking away, she turned and walked right back out. Anthony simply looked at me and grinned. "Well, that was awkward," he said, and we shared a laugh. There was no lingering pain or sense of victory, just an emptiness where she had once been a significant part of my life. She became just a person I used to know. Life is good now. My apartment feels like mine again. I've reconnected with friends, refocused on work, And most importantly, my relationship with my brother has never been stronger. He never made me feel as though I had to choose, but he thanked me with tears in his eyes once it was all over. I told him the truth. It was never a choice, Anthony. It was a clarification. I've heard through the grapevine that Ashley and Sandra tell others. I'm a manipulative sociopath who concocted an elaborate scheme to ruin her life over nothing. They will never understand the reality of their actions or recognize the ugliness within themselves. In a way, this is the most satisfying conclusion. It proves I saw the rot clearly and that I was justified in burning it all down and walking away. They can keep their bitterness. I will embrace my peace.